Mr. Attorney, that'd be a problem.
Oh, look at this. Last night he's swimming in Jack Daniels, and now he can leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Welcome back to the Backwards History Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will, here with my co-host, Kevin. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
I'm fine. I just sit here and drink.
What you drinking?
Oh, just a little bit of the whiskey. Or the whiskey, if you will.
Me too.
Oh, well, look at that.
Little clinkety clink for the... Yeah. But before we get into what we just did, which I'm sure most of you know exactly what we just did, I need you to go do all those social media thingy things. Go like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your wife, tell your girlfriend, tell your mistress. But also, we want to announce that we have opened a merchandise store on Teespring. That's TEESPring.com/stores/backwards-history-store. Go check us out. We got t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, fanny packs to say, shut up, Kevin. I'm personally proud of those. And some masks, since most of you have to go around wearing masks now because it's mandated. Thankfully, I live in the county.
Thank God.
But it says, shut up, Kevin, across the front, which I think is great. But go check them out. Go help support the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Go purchase one of those. We set the prices as low as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
Very little kickback for us. We just want people to be wearing our stuff. We don't care if we get anything out of it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're personally going to be ordering some of our own stuff here in about a week.
Oh, yeah.
And also, we have been put in the running for the 2020 People's Choice Podcast Awards. And we need your help to go and nominate us for those podcast awards. All you have to do is go to podcastawards.com, click the link for Nominate My Favorite Podcast, and pick yours truly. I believe we're in the society.
I believe so.
Yeah. The society and culture section. Just go nominate your favorite podcast for that award. We would love to have that sitting here on the desk.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Put it there next to Little George. You know.
Oh, yeah. Little George and the People's Choice Podcast Awards. I would love it. I would love it.
Great.
But as you can probably gather from the start of this episode with the whiskey Kevin was talking about and the little clinkety clink, we're doing a little bit of drinking, which admittedly we do every time we record because it's really awkward to talk to a microphone in front of each other without having a little bit of a buzz.
A little bit of liquid courage, if you will.
Right? But this episode is going to be on the history of whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably delve into the history of other types of alcohol. This may be a bit of a series without being a numbered series. Maybe vodka and tequila and everything else coming later. But today is going to be whiskey because that happens to be what we enjoy. More pointedly, we like the bullet bourbon. But that's not the subject for today. And as always, we're going into the history portion. It's Kevin's turn.
Don't say it like you've been defeated or anything. I mean,
no, I'm giving him my very official announcer voice.
Announcer voice. Well, as long as it's official, I suppose.
That's it, man.
Whiskey, as Will said, is one of our personal favorites. It's part of every show, all the way back to number one, all the way up to right this moment.
If anybody who's associated with Bullet is listening, let them know we would love a little sponsor because we'd be down with that one.
Oh, yeah, it's a great product. But that's all the free promo you're going to get anyway. Whiskey is, as Will and I said, one of our personal favorites. And I guess it ties back into our heritage coming from Scotland, England, Ireland, that kind of background. Whiskey, like many other products, is distilled. And you go through the whole fermentation process. And I'll spare you the scientific details on that. About 1,000 years ago, give or take, a century or two here or there, the distillation process makes its way to the British Isles through monks. Catholicism spreads. Monks are kind of the keepers of knowledge at this time.
Catholicism spreads like a virus.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Okay.
As I've alluded to in other episodes, Catholicism spreads through the same networks that the Romans had established.
Like a virus.
Or a human-made infrastructure, but okay.
Or religion.
Or religion in general.
Virus.
But anyway, it spreads. It makes its way over to the British Isles. Now, in Catholicism, communion is one of the holy sacraments, air quotes on holy. And in order to perform this sacrament, you must have wine, or the blood of Christ. Now, in the British Isles, vineyards don't grow very well. So it's really hard to produce wine there. So it's typically imported mostly from Spain. However, the distillation process still makes it there. So they're like, hey, well, let's try it with some of the stuff that grows here locally. And the end result on that is we get whiskey. Interesting fact about whiskey, when it's made, it's actually clear. It doesn't gain its rich dark color until it's aged in barrels.
Now, technically, the original process would have most likely used barley.
Right.
So it would not necessarily be whiskey by our standards. It would be Scotch.
Right.
But that's only because it was made in Scotland. Much like champagne is only from France. If it's from anywhere else, it's sparkling wine.
And all drinks the same. I mean, I don't care what you call it. But yeah, there are certain distinctions. Typically in Ireland and the United States, we spell whiskey with an E. But Scotch is spelled without it.
Spelled with just a Y.
Yeah, simple, one less letter to remember.
Right?
Like I said, whatever you call it, it all drinks the same. Now, whiskey becomes rather popular. It's produced from local ingredients, barley, as Will said. Now, about the time King Henry VIII comes along, we all know his famous parting of ways with the Catholic Church. He dissolves the monasteries in England and the British Isles. Mainly because he wanted a divorce and the Pope wouldn't grant it. Yeah, they had a disagreement, if you will.
So he starts the Church of England.
You know, I'm going to go start my own church. I don't even need yours.
I don't need you guys no more.
They do whatever I want. But suddenly you have all these monks who they kind of need to make some money. So what do they get at? Hey, we can make whiskey. People seem to like that. Hey, you know that stuff we made and people really like? Let's make some more of that and sell it.
Seems like a fair business plan.
You know, it's still in effect today all over the world. So they start.
Wait. So I just want to drop this word here.
Oh, Lord.
Capitalism. Anyway, continue.
Continue. A little foreshadowing there, perhaps.
Capitalism.
And so that's where we start to see whiskey as a viable market product, if you will. It's one where people are, hey, this is pretty good stuff here. People are making it. And in 1608, you have the Bushmill distillery that's open. And it holds the distinction of being the oldest whiskey distillery in the world. That was made in 1608, over 400 years ago, and still going strong. So clearly this is a great business model. To give you some reference on that, Jamestown Colony was founded in 1607. So to kind of let you know, these folks have been making whiskey for a really long time.
Now, the oldest American whiskey...
With an E.
Right. The brand is actually owned by Jim Beam now. Now, originally, though, it was Old Overholt Rye. Oh. And it was started in 1810. That's the oldest known or at least still produced,
Continuous.
American whiskey.
Okay.
It's Old Overholt. And I think we're going to get a bottle of that just to try.
Oh, yeah. Try to become whiskey connoisseurs, if you will. But yeah, that's the history of whiskey in a nutshell, I guess.
Which alcohol has a very interesting history. In a lot of cases, it was drank mostly. I mean, granted, we know why we drink it now, and I'm sure that hasn't changed very much since its inception.
Probably not.
But because it was safer to drink alcohol, or at least alcohol mixed water, than it was to drink the water itself.
Because it would kill you.
It would kill you. Yeah, because dysentery
Oh.
now is even dangerous. So imagine back then.
And there's really no viable treatment for
If you've
it.
ever heard of Montezuma's Revenge, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, I'll explain that one. If you drink the water in Mexico, you'll have the craps, and it's called Montezuma's Revenge. It's dysentery.
But yeah, alcohol does have a long history, even with the United States. The Pilgrims actually landed in Plymouth Bluff because they ran out of beer. They needed to land sooner. I just thought that was, that quintessential myth of the founding of the United States. Like, I guess we'll stop here. We ain't got no more beer,
It sounds like a modern day Friday night.
Yeah, like, I guess this is where we're going to set up shop, everybody.
We need more beer.
But on ships, the only way to store water is in barrels, and stagnant water doesn't keep very well. So typically they would mix some kind of alcohol with the water.
Typically brandy.
Typically. Because it would kill the bacteria and all the other little crawly things in there.
Because alcohol is a preservative. If you've ever seen, like snakes or whatever in a jar in a museum or what have you, it's in formaldehyde, which is mostly alcohol.
And they would mix the alcohol with the water, and like Will said, brandy was a popular choice. And they would call it grog, and that's where we get the terminology of being groggy, in the morning. Yeah, I'll get some water, but it looks a little slimy. Let me mix it with some of this brandy. That way I don't die.
That sounds awful.
And life was, difficult for the overwhelming majority of human history.
Now, I grew up with a parrot head.
Oh,
And if you don't know what a parrot head is, that's a Jimmy Buffett fan. And there's a song, I think it's Pirate Looking at 40.
Something like that.
And he talks about being born 200 years too late. and I, as a kid, I used to fantasize about being born in that era, and I'd have been a pirate or a sailor or something. And it, movies glorify it.
Absolutely.
And romanticize it. And now that I'm older and I understand history and how things actually were, that sounds absolutely awful.
Absolutely. As a historian, I get asked all the time, if you could live in any period of history right now, you can't even finish that question because I have to have plumbing. I have to have indoor plumbing and electricity, or
anytime after outdoor plumbing, I'm good.
Yeah, it's one of those things of when you see historic based movies, they never really capture just how absolutely filthy it was.
You ever notice in any movie of any time period prior to now, they never discuss any of the characters having to use the restroom?
Oh yeah, I mean it was just god awful. I can't imagine the stank it must have had.
But on another note, on the same vein of this, if I were to ever go back, it would either be the 1920s or the 1940s, and I would probably pick the 1920s.
Yeah, you do have an economic boom during that time.
But on the same vein, alcohol.
Oh yeah.
You've got the whole existence of NASCAR, which are being really stupid in a business fashion right now, but we're not going to get into that on this episode.
No, they're feeling the pinch.
You don't alienate your entire monetary base just to be hip and cool.
To be, relevant.
And there's air quotes on hip and cool.
Oh, absolutely.
But the whole 1920s is full of bootleggers and speakeasies and all of that interesting stuff. But you got indoor plumbing. You've got no NFA, so I could own a Tommy gun. No questions asked. I'd be down with the 1920s.
Everybody did dress a lot nicer. Well, at least if they weren't dirt poor, but
Right. Just make you some bathtub hooch, and you were good to go. You could afford that Ford Vicky and that Thompson, and go to town.
Then.
But to tie our current, what Kevin said earlier about whiskey being clear until it was aged in oak barrels, we actually mentioned something about that in our Samuel Adams episode, because he owned a brew house. And what they would do in the Americas when they couldn't use a particular product or sell it or whatever on their farms, whether it be corn or wheat or pretty much anything agricultural, they would use it to make whiskey. Yeah. But it would be clear whiskey because the aging process hadn't become popular at the time yet.
It starts to take off in popularity later on when the demand for it starts to rise up. I really don't know when.
But one thing, you had to make use of everything you had to make it worth it.
Right, and once they start to, you get the distillers who are making this a viable business product. They start adding their own little flares and things here and there to it. That's where you start to see certain aging processes come about. And
like old number 7, Jack Daniels.
No idea why he picked that. It's just a random number.
Well, it may have been his 7th try at making something worth a crap. Their claim to fame is a particular stream or spring or something. The water that they use to make Jack Daniels is their claim to fame.
Right. It's their distinction, I guess you say.
Right. But it's not uncommon for people to use whatever they have to make alcohol, which we'll get into this particular alcohol later, but vodka. This will be another episode for us, but vodka is typically made from corn or potatoes or whatever. But I've actually heard of vodka, crazy Russians, but I've heard of vodka being made from chicken poop. Honestly, I would probably try chicken poop vodka just to prove to myself that it's better than Taka, because Taka's the worst stuff in the world. But I'd bet money that chicken poop vodka is better than Taka. Just saying.
I'm gonna pass on both.
But as always, we're just two guys with a microphone
and whiskey
and whiskey. Now that we've let our secret out, I think we may have told people early on, but yeah, we're not experts. We're not brewers. We're not whatever. We fancy ourselves alcohol aficionados, but we're just drinkers.
We're just drinkers.
But don't ever, ever, ever take us as experts. Don't take our word as fact. We want you to do your own research, form your own opinions, trust, but verify.